everyone, it's Jason Sansucci with the Do You Know Drones podcast. When I was in Dallas for the Drone Deploy Conference, I had the opportunity to sit down with the founder and CEO of Lone Star Drones, Mr. Drew Smith, and we were able to actually get some hands-on experience with the new Teledyne FLIR commercial pro-grade option, the SIRAS. And I got to tell you, we're going to get into this, but man, Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a pleasure meeting you, and of course, getting you some stick time on the SIRAS. It's a good bird. I like it.
It is a good bird, and it's funny because I was doing my due diligence, looking on YouTube to see what's sort of going around, and everyone's got the stock stuff. Everyone's got here's what's going on, here are the specs, and there's already haters out there that are talking about the specs aren't good enough. Here's what I have to tell you: until you get hands-on with this machine, you really don't have anything to talk about yet. Not anything to talk about yet. Everyone's a little bit different. Their operational workflows are a little bit different. But what I can tell you with just a very short amount of hands-on time, stick time with this airframe, it's a pro tool. This is a commercial grade tool designed for professionals. This is not a prosumer drone. This is a professional drone. So there's a difference, right? There's a difference between the two. So and we're going to get into that in here. So I want to talk a little bit, not really about the specs necessarily, but I want to talk about what I've been seeing related to some of the complaints out there, right? Like, these are people that haven't flown this yet. They haven't flown the system. Well, they're already complaining, which is hilarious. And obviously, we know there's a very large competitor out there that they have to do what they think are apples to apples comparisons. What I can tell you, and I'm sure Drew will back this up, is they're probably wrong. They're not apples to apples. You can't really do that with this. So let's get into it. So my first question, or the first complaint that I want to talk about, and like I said, this is going to be really interesting. So we're not really talking about all the virtues of this system purely as virtues. I want to encounter what people have been saying, and then my own experience to talk about that. And then I want to talk about, because Drew obviously has way more stick time on this with his aircraft, with his pilots and himself than I do, and pretty much anyone else in the country does. Maybe besides Kelly. And so I want to talk about that. I think that's an important thing. So let's talk about first question. And I want to talk about a sneak peek. In November, Kelly and Randall are going to. So Randall's with Enterprise UAS. We're good friends. He's a friend of the industry. He's a great guy. They're going to do a webinar in November where they're going to be talking about post-flight tools, mapping mode, and the flight planner. I want to give them a little, from your perspective, and I'm going to give you the floor. I want to get your sort of pre-preview of what that looks like for the listeners.
So I'd say that when you say that this is a professional tool, it is a professional tool. The things that it has been designed by the professionals for the professionals. Things like the fact that it doesn't have the geofencing, the mapping is built in a very, very simplistic, very straightforward manner. And of course, the fact that Teledyne FLIR is actively working with they're actively working with the UGCS system to get it integrated. It's clear that they're not doing what the other competitor did, which is to kind of push the ship or steer the ship the way they wanted to, and the consumers were just that. They were consumers.
Yeah, I think that's important to recognize. And there are several features that are baked into this system. And I'm not talking about just the flying system. The entire UAV platform that Teledyne FLIR is built for this was designed for the professional, right? And they're using all feedback and continuing to use all feedback on, I don't want to get too tight on this stuff. Most people understand this has a swappable payload. It's got some wonderful things out there that make it future-proof. Swappable payload being one of the most popular things right now, right, at the price point that it's at. And people are even complaining that they're not putting the price out there. I'm like, well, they kind of are.
Well, let's address that one. The system itself comes in under $10,000, and I mean it's just under $10,000. It's a 96 and some change. But the fact that you can get that swappable payload, in fact, I'll pull up our little model here. And you can see that instead of doing the twist and awkward motion in the field, it's literally just you pinch the two little tabs here, pull forward, and off it comes. And this is the payload here. It is incredibly small, and yet this sensor in here is the exact same sensor in the bigger, like the XT2 and some of those other bigger thermals. So this system here, this payload here, it's different insofar as the DJI, you're limited by that IP44 payload rating. Well, this is weather resistant. So the actual payload itself, not only is it interchangeable, but it is weatherproofed. But all that said, you're talking about a drone that is sub $10,000, and that is an all-up cost. There's no buying other accessories to make sure that you're where you need to be. It comes with the nice gigantic smart controller that you can use. So that all-up price tag of just under $10,000, and if you wanted to do the price shopping and what it's all about, we've already got it listed on our website for sale. So there's the capability that this thing will supplant a lot of those other professional drones simply based on that price tag. So if you wanted to go with something comparable, as far as the size and the capabilities and everything, I think probably the closest competition would be on the DJI side, the M30, which is what, $15,000 all up?
For the M30T, yeah.
So it's more expensive, and at the end of the day, it has some features that are not built for the professional. They're built more for the law enforcement. So if you're not in that community, you're spending money on features that you're not going to use. Well, this has a lot of features that every professional is going to use, and it doesn't try to pack too much into the airframe.
True, and I would actually say that obviously from the size and form factor, for the capability, you're more comparing to like the M300, which with the right sensor series could be 3 times as much.
Right. So this drone here specifically has completely replaced one of our 210s. So we never really switched over to the 300 simply because it was, the cost was too expensive. You couldn't travel with the batteries. It didn't fit our use factor. Now, Teledyne FLIR is addressing the capabilities of the 210 with products like the TZ20R, which gives that zooming FLIR capability. But this here replaces that 210 based on form factor and versatility and flight time. So we recently, and in fact the last couple of days, this thing has been tasked with search and rescue. And we had it up in the air for excess of 35 minutes at a time, and we were having to bring that 210 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we have a few sets of batteries for it, and we were able to keep it up in the air longer with 2 sets of batteries than that 210 with 3 sets of batteries. And the capability, the flight time, the versatility of being able to take off and land in areas that even something like, because some people are comparing it to the Mavic Enterprise Advance. Now, Mavic Enterprise Advance, yes, has a high-resolution thermal camera, and it only really comes in just a hair under this price tag. But the capability of this being able to launch it in tall grass because it sits higher off the ground, having that weatherproofing, like we've had some rain here in Texas in the last couple of days. Well, we had no issue taking this out into the field and potentially launching it in adverse conditions. So, from my perspective, and I do consider myself an unbiased opinion because I'm looking literally to outfit my crews with something that is going to be the best, is going to be the most versatile aircraft. I am actively liquidating my 210 fleet to get these and use these in the field.
Yeah, I think that's very important because there's a lot of us professional drone service providers that are looking for not just the next great thing. We're looking for not a game. I mean, people look for game changers and look for this. Like, no. We're looking for.
We need tools. We need tools in our tool belt.
There needs to be the right tool, the right set of tools in our tool belt, and more of us are moving away from. Interestingly enough, I mean, most people that are doing a lot of work that isn't necessarily requiring NDA compliance or Blue SUAS are still need to move towards non-Chinese. And if the only requirement, most of the customers that we work with, they're starting to get that requirement, but they're not needing NDA compliance. They're not needing Blue SUAS. They understand those are sort of few and far between as far as it's concerned. But they want a U.S. or basically just non-Chinese manufacturer.
Right.
This
So that's the first question anyone asks when they go to seek a contract is, are you flying Chinese-made drones?
Correct.
No, we're not flying Chinese-made drones anymore.
It's true.
Simple as that.
And two things that make it non-NDA compliant right now, because this is a professional commercial tool. Professional commercial tool, most jobs do not require that. When you start to do more government, any sort of government, local government, municipal government, then it starts to become more of a requirement. But for professional commercial tools, it's really not. And I could say that because we really haven't seen it, and it's just because it's not required. They require the professional to understand data chain of custody, IT, cybersecurity, all of those things. And if we can manage those things, then they don't have to have the requirement. They trust us as the professional to have that down. They have an end product they need. How we get it, what tools we bring to the party is on us.
Right.
So that's important to mention. One thing I want to bring up, so the two things, the only two components that are Chinese made on this platform so far are the batteries and the gimbal. That's it. Batteries and gimbal are the only two things that are Chinese made.
And let's clarify that the gimbal components are Chinese made.
Correct.
And that's going to be, any electronic. Unfortunately, motors are probably going to be Chinese made because that's the only place that makes them currently. And a lot of the silicon is made in China. But the actual assembly and the sensor itself, the camera itself is produced in California here in America. So it's basically, yes, the componentry, some of the componentry in the gimbal is made in China, but the actual gimbal itself and the camera is assembled, final assembly in America, in California.
Like I said, I wanted to cover that because I think that's important for some people to realize, because everyone's like, oh, another piece of Chinese equipment. Oh, another.
Right.
This is not. Teledyne FLIR has the clout in the industry and not just the clout, but they actually have they've developed products in this industry. It's well known.
Right.
So this is not an unknown commodity. This is not an unknown resource. People understand Teledyne FLIR as the massive organization that it is. They're going to develop a quality product because they're not going to put their name. This isn't someone in their garage building a drone. This has now been made by they have their own manufacturing processes. They have the Lean Six Sigma and all the qualifications and certifications. All of this stuff is built into it, where the pure US market, so I'm going to pivot to that for a second, the pure US market, they're not even close.
Right. So, and that's a big thing. So I'm an Army veteran, and everything that we used that was thermal, was advanced sensoring, was Teledyne FLIR. Every time we turn on the RAID camera, it had a big old Teledyne FLIR logo on it. So when I found out that Teledyne FLIR was slapping their name on and their logo on a drone, to me, that's a game changer, because you're talking about a huge government contract entity that produces sensors and produces basically data handling devices for the most secure environments. So it says something when they're willing to put their brand on this, and they saw the hole in the industry that needed to be addressed in the data security. The biggest mission that we have is our clients' data security. So we everything we do by government standards. My business partner is former Department of Homeland Security, CISA, Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency. So we take the next step in trying to secure data. So again, when I saw something that had the Teledyne FLIR logo on it, that's a no-brainer, because there is an issue. There is an issue with these drones having sent data back to foreign countries, and when you're talking critical infrastructure inspection, because there's another thing. So there's government contracts, but there's also critical infrastructure contracts where you're dealing with power, you're dealing with plants, sports arenas, all kinds of these critical infrastructures that have to be inspected and secured. Well, again, the first question anyone asks is, what are you flying? And if you're flying anything DJI, unfortunately, you're not getting that contract. Whereas with this, again, interchangeable payload, 35 plus minute battery life. And I know the spec sheet will give you, a very safe estimate. Well, we literally have had this thing in the air for 35 plus minutes. And that's not just, doing little motions. Again, this was the hardest this thing has been run so far is in the last couple of days when our crews have been out till 2 and 4 in the morning doing search and rescue. And that anyone who's done that knows that that basically you're taking off, you're bringing it back down, swapping out batteries, putting those on the charger, and taking right back off. So the capability of this in doing things like critical infrastructure inspection, it's there. There's no question that this thing is going to revolutionize the industry.
Very well put, sir. Very well put. So two things. So two things that you brought up that I want to just dive a little bit deeper. That was a concern. A concern was screen real estate on the controller. So show us this controller again.
I'll do you one better. So the biggest smartphone on the market currently is the Note, the Galaxy Note, which is what I carry on a daily basis. And as a point of comparison, this thing is far bigger than my DJI Smart Controller screen. And you can see that the screen on this controller is just about comparable to it. And it is just as bright, but you can see that it is decently big.
And I pulled up a stat because I'm a stats guy. So the DJI RC Pro, right? Not the one that's coming with the M30T or the M30 series, but all the rest of them. They're all like, it's funny because they're like, oh, it's a 5.5 inch screen. Okay, people are seeing like the 3x6 inch. Technically, that is much bigger because this is a 6.7 inch screen,
right? Not
a 5.5 inch screen. So it is bigger. People are like, oh, it's so small. I'm like, it's actually a very decently sized screen that is, and the controller itself just feels good. Like, and I know they're making some for the production models. They're making some additional additions for comfort and other non-slip surfaces and things like that, which is awesome. You know, that makes it better, especially if you're working in the rain or any sort of inclement weather.
Right.
You're gonna want something you're not gonna drop, right? It's really nice. And one thing you showed me in the field that I thought was really interesting is that you can just change the antennas very quickly, because that was another potential criticism you brought up.
So the built-in antennas on all the DJI products, they limit you in the capability. Now, of course, with the 210, and again, that's what we're comparing, my company's personally comparing it to, is the 210, the Sendence remote with the big Crystal Sky. Is this as big as a Crystal Sky screen? Would it be nice to have something as big as a Crystal Sky screen? Absolutely. But the fact that, unlike your smart controllers, you can actually pull off the antennas and mount them to, so here in Arlington, Texas, we have the SWAT team has a vehicle that you can mount the controller to, and that's one of the reasons that they've hesitated switching or upgrading to a different model. Is with that Sendence, they can plug directly into that tactical vehicle and have the extended antennas. Well, this once again gives you the same capability. Those little things, like you said, the perfect example is when you have it folded up and you set it down. So you set it down like this, and it sits on its little hind legs, and it's got the little rubber feet to protect, whatever's underneath it, and you don't have frayed carbon fiber and stuff. It's those little attention to details that I absolutely love. The fact that the gimbal, to me, the way the gimbal interfaces with the drone is amazing, because you don't have to, when you're out in the field, because again, we were out there, oh crud, it was, so I brought out a crew out there, and it was us for 4 hours, 5 hours. And when you're in a situation like that where you're trying to maintain some light discipline, and you don't want a bunch of white light going, trying to find the little dot on your gimbal on your 210 to try to line it up and twist it in, it gets difficult. There is zero hesitation. It's just, there's only one way it can go in, and it's in. It's done.
That's it. Done.
That's it. The two little tabs and it's in.
I love that. And that's an important thing to know. Like, they really did take a lot of attention to detail for those professional workflows. You can have that checklist that you go through all of these things to make sure everything's secure. You have a visual that things are secure. Like, everything just feels a different level, a higher grade than the DJI equipment that I've seen out there.
100%.
Yeah.
So I was recording that just now, so we've got that to use in the video if you want to.
It's awesome, man.
So we're good to go now. Again.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we're good to go. But yeah, I mean, so let's do this. I want to end on this. I want to hear, so your overall operational experience with this piece of equipment so far. Give me your overall thoughts. Like, where are you with this? Like, obviously you're a fan, right, possibly a fanatic. But like now I'm curious, like tell me more about, you've been hands-on with this. Tell me the good, bad, and the ugly, man.
So the good, I think it says something when I can take because this is technically a pre-production model. They've addressed a lot of the glitches that they had during production, but for all intents and purposes is a pre-production model. The fact that I can take a pre-production model into the field and immediately pit it against the 210, that to me says it all. That we are, so it's here, the production model is going to be here, but the fact that even in a pre-production environment and pre-production situation, it is still performing as well, if not in some ways better than the 210. That to me gives me warm and fuzzies on the fact that I can just buy a whole bunch of these and replace my 210. Another good thing is when we go out into the field, my crews typically takes 2 briefcase size cases of the 210 batteries, and any of your viewers who have dealt with those 210 batteries, they're decently chunky. This is the battery for the SIRAS, and it weighs about half as much, but the key is that I can have a ton of these in the same number of these that I would have for the 210. They're lighter, they're going to store better because they're thinner. I can put them a lot more of these in that case, but at the end of the day, they fly longer than a 210. So that's the good. The good is it's well built, the attention to detail that they've got, the fact that the batteries last longer, the fact that it is an American company that, and let it be known, the amount of complaints that my company has given DJI or suggestions on things that need to be changed with DJI, and it is just radio silence from DJI on all of it. It's basically, we have a product, use it, be happy with it. Whereas Teledyne FLIR, every bit of feedback and criticism and what needs to be changed that I have given Kelly at Teledyne FLIR, he's digested it, taken it back, and implemented it. There's the over-the-top stuff. So we had the Arlington Police Department do a quick T&E on it. And one thing that they said is they'd like an augmented reality overlay of the streets over the video feed. Well, clearly that's not going to happen. It'll happen probably in the future when augmented reality has been implemented better on drones. But other than that, every single criticism or critique or suggestion that the Arlington PD gave Kelly, they've implemented. So it's that kind of willingness to improve the product and interface with the client base that gives me just incredible hope. And understand, again, I go back to, I am not an unbiased individual. If Teledyne FLIR had approached this in the same way that some of the other companies had, I would have been just as hesitant to jump ship off DJI and go with Teledyne FLIR. But the fact that me as a business owner, that's my main driving mission, is the fact that I'm a business owner. So I have to think about the bottom line. I have to think about my operators out in the field breaking stuff constantly. I have to think about how the company is going to interface with me to make those gradual and evolutionary improvements on the product. And of course, the big one is Kelly and I are already talking. Well, let's stop that. Actually, let's not go there. So I'm out on that.
Come on, man.
Off the record, we're already talking about revision 2, so we're already talking about the next product, so it's super cool. So that's a teaser that you can put into, I didn't say it, but you can put that into the end of the video on something. But okay, so back to it. So the negatives on this product, there are some things that are different about using a whole new platform, and that's where there are going to be some negatives, is trying to switch from the M300 or the 210 into this. Obviously, you're gonna have to buy all new equipment. one of the things that I know is actively being addressed right now is there is only the one gimbal right now. So Kelly and I are talking about what's the next iteration of gimbal. Do we want a spotlight? Do we want one of the products that a third party came out with for the M series was a loudspeaker for search and rescue. So there's these little things that we can implement. But again, we go back to, is that a negative or is that a positive? Where the manufacturer is actively listening to us and wanting to know what they can do to develop the next step. So that's not even so much a negative as it is a benefit. So there's not a whole lot of negatives when you factor it into the business environment, when you factor it into the professional drone environment. It's got incredible battery life as far as, you know, these nice light, half the price of an M210 battery set and a fraction of what the M300 is. So there's the cost savings. Obviously there's a heap of costs that you're going to have to take on when you change over your platform. But I think overall the willingness for Teledyne FLIR to introduce this at the price point they wanted, and the accessories are not super bloated on the price. The charger is worlds in a way easier to use than the 210. You don't have that stupid cylindrical thing where you have to, you know, precariously put the batteries in there. It's just a drop-in slots on the charger. So there's these benefits to it that I think, to me, there is no negative on this drone. This drone it's lightweight, it's super compact, it flies a lot longer than the M210. And then one thing we had talked about offline was, how does it handle wind velocities? Well, again, the weather in the last couple of days here in Texas has been strange. It's been iffy, where we've got like super gusts, especially above 100 feet. And I'm not going to say that they were 40-mile-an-hour gusts, but they were gusty, and we were feeling it. You get the little gust warning on the controller, and the video feed is just rock solid. And you look up and you're seeing the lights dance. So there's lights on the bottom of the feet, and you're seeing those dance a little bit. So you know that it's getting that a decent amount of wind gusts, but the video feed is just rock solid. So again, I go back to, are there any drawbacks? Yeah, there's one drawback, and that is anyone who is dealing with a 210 or an M300 or whatever other product you're using, the thought of having to change over your entire platform is going to be daunting. You've got the cost, you've got all of the accessories that haven't been developed yet, but we're actively looking at. So my company is talking to a hard case manufacturer to come up with a hard case for it that's going to be a little bit more usable, and you won't have to unfold it. So the fact that the unfolded size of this is the folded size of a 210, again, no brainer. So I'm not sure I can give you any drawbacks, because we honestly haven't found any yet. There's no way that this does not compete head to head with the 210 in capabilities, and I'll give you one. It doesn't have a crystal sky. I'm a big fan of the crystal sky, where it's got that nice big screen. So there was the question about the screen size. This is a big screen, but would it be nice to have a crystal sky? Yeah. So maybe that's in the next round of development.
And I really appreciate that. And your candor is important, right? Like,
yeah.
Once you've got hands-on with this machine, you're going to be changed. Like you're going to be convinced. And that's one thing that I really like. Like, you'll be convinced. Like, this is something that is well thought out,
right,
for the professional, and it gets the job done. And it's not like what some of the competitors are doing, where I need this tool to do this job, this tool to do this job, this tool to do this job. This tool is not just future-proof, but is expansive throughout what I would say are the prime commercial markets as professionals in the drone industry. Is it going to deliver food? No, it is not. Is it going to do everything related to surveying and inventory and monitoring? Yes, it will. And there's a lot within that it'll be able to do. So this is not a one-trick pony. So that's really nice to have, something that is expandable, something that is affordable, and something that is professional. That's
right.
A big deal. So, man.
And I think one thing is, you went from when I brought this out to Dallas and you got to fly it, you went from excited about the fact that it's a new platform and you know, insert video feed here, but the fact that you went from excited to a little bit serious in when you first took off at how well it was controlled, how responsive it was to control. That I think everyone's going to have that reaction. You go from, hey, this is a super cool new product, it's a shiny new toy, to the moment you get up in the air, you say, oh wow, this is well behaved, it's well controlled. And the fact that you can zoom in with that RGB on a camera that's you're not having to carry two payloads. The payload itself is nice and small. The thermal is incredible, because make no mistake, as a thermographer, when you're dealing with going from the pipeline of having to deal with the Zenmu's thermal sensors to having to try to shoehorn that into some of the FLIR tools, I don't want that. I want my pipeline for the workload to be, you offload the data onto FLIR tools or the newer programs, and immediately be able to utilize the FLIR specific software to analyze the data. So it's a game changer, I think.
Man, I entirely agree with you, and I hope everyone gets a chance to demo, fly this, eventually purchase this.
Yes.
I think this is definitely something that will have not just longevity in the industry, but I mean, it's changing it. And like I said, it fits right in a sweet spot that is a gap. Like, it is a massive gap, so it's fitting solidly in there with room around it. There's really no competition as far as I'm concerned. And man, Drew, I just want to say thank you so much for, like, this has been really great getting to chat just candidly about this platform, your experience with it, my experience with it, and getting to spend time with you in the field was really a treat. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I will say this to all of your viewers: if they are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or frankly in Texas, because we, this thing is making the circuit all around Texas with my different field crews. If you're in Texas and you want to get some hands-on time, you want to feel it, you want to touch it, please give me a call. We will be happy to put you on the sticks. And then, of course, if you want any of the specs or the prices, or you want to buy one, shoot on over the website, lsdrone.com, and we will absolutely make that happen.